Today we have a game that I took from chess.com. It features two players, one rated 1378 as white, and the black player is 1461. So not quite 100 points difference. I picked this game because it highlights what really goes on in practice between players rated, say, around 1400 mark. So we start with g3 and then e6, bishop g2, queen f6. That's not a very natural move. You really would like this square for your knight, or the option to play f5. So it's not a smart move, but it's just attempting to do the El Cheapo mate on f2, I suppose. And people keep playing it because other players keep allowing it. d3, bishop c5, so threatening the mate. Knight f3, so continuing with normal development while preventing threats. So that's a good move. Check, moving the piece twice in the opening, which is not advised. And here, basically, c3 just gains the tempo, stops the queen on b2, does all kinds of things, and then you castle. And white has a perfect game. But here he decided to get a bit fancy and play bishop here, which is a move that loses a pawn in the opening, with typical play between 1400 weighted players. Queen takes here, bishop takes, and here black should probably just recapture with check with a good game. Instead, black gets greedy and picks up the rook. So here, white used very little time on the clock and played knight c3 instead of the winning move, which is bishop c3. And of course, after bishop c3, only move is to take on a2, just like that. And bishop takes here, wins the rook in the corner. And the resulting position would be the equivalent of about 5 pawns up, which is a comfortable lead. 5 pawns in the opening, it's pretty good. So after knight c3, black plays queen b2, attacking the bishop. We can understand that. But really, when you had on material, and you offer the exchange of queens, why don't you take it? So that's the previous line. Why wouldn't you want to take on d1 with check? Knight takes in order to preserve the castling, and then you would have knight c6 attacking the bishop, and when bishop here, pawn on, and say e4 and knight g7, and black has got no trouble, and he's comfortably ahead, the equivalent of 3 pawns. So after queen b2, here a3 sort of attempts to keep the queen trapped in there, and here a5, not a great move. Possibly knight c6 was better. Knight c6 attacking the bishop on b4. So here we had a5 and knight b5. Probably knight a4, yeah. And when the queen moves back, then the bishop can drop back here and cause a bit of pressure on the position. And you will have to come here. You can't come here because he's going to get attacked by the knight on g4. So we'll have to come here. Knight b5 is attempting to get back some material, but the argument is very quickly lost. Pawn takes, knight takes check. That's a mistake. You need to go on e7. And after that, take on a8. The pawn takes here. Castles, because of course this is a threat now of queening. So you need both the queen and the rook defending that square. b5. So a good move, doing two things. Connecting that to that pawn, having a pawn supporting the other, the pass pawn, and also threatening here, which is quite good. Queen a1, of course, to sort of prompt exchanges on the b5, but also there's another problem there, which is the pawn. So the black queen cannot do anything, and you would have probably bishop b7, knight here, push, take, rook here. There's a very nice idea in dropping that pawn, which is this. And now suddenly you realize the knight c7 is kind of trapped. And he would have to go probably back here. I don't think this is a good square because the king is going to end up coming up here, defending the pawn, attacking the knight, which has nowhere to go. So the only move would be this, and then just d5. It's kind of messy, but it's quite even though white looks to be undermined by black, still has chances. So it's the kind of position where you got chances both ways, and there's only about a pawn in this opening. So that was the variation of king e7, but in the game king d8 was played. Now, what you can immediately see is that of course it's not happening now, but potentially there is threats going there. This is why one of the reasons why the king is better placed here, but the other reason is the king can march right up here in defense of the pawn, and that's more difficult to see. So rook takes a8, queen takes a3, knight b6 getting out, and also that's quite a strong square for the knight, so it's a good move. b3, that's what you call a rip-off attempt, and here white fell for it instead of castling. Castling is the right move. King safety is everything when you play chess, because checks can lead to all kinds of things, including checkmate, and it's not a good idea to leave it on. So after b3, unfortunately, white plays this and fell for the check here, which picks up the knight. So now suddenly black is winning again. Castles a little bit too late. Knight f6, knight c4, pretty reasonable play. Queen c7, queen a1, knight develops. Here you wonder what could have happened after these. It's probably essential for black to strike in the center here and dislodge that knight, and also later to put the king in a safe square, but at the moment it's stuck in the center, so it doesn't have a safe square to go to. But let's have a look at what could have happened after d5. The knight can go here. Then you just develop. Any kind of exchange is in favor of black here, especially when it strengthened the game so much. The king is safe now. This is a very strong structure, and the king will be able to perhaps go here, and if somebody checks, interpose the queen. So after probably maybe this queen a8, the king goes there, and then rook c1, threatening to push here and there. And of course, you can't defend with that pawn with the king. He would have to. That's a bit tricky position here. After rook c1, the computer gives this as the best move, because after this, there's this very tricky move. that's the whole point. If you take the rook, we take this rook, possibly with the bishop actually, and if you take the queen, we take the queen that way. So that was a very tricky move. Anyway, so here he played, instead of maybe playing d5, play knight a6, and then rook c1. Rook c1 potentially quite nasty threat. I think that's the threat here. And if queen takes, no, it doesn't work because the bishop is defended. So where can the discovery happen? Hard to tell. Because now the knight is out. He's gonna play king here, and that doesn't leave much, does it? And then the pawn goes to d6 maybe. So after rook c1, for some strange reason, instead of playing king e7, black plays the queen back on the back rank, and you just got. The only thing it does is stops the threat on the queen with the discovery by the knight, but really there wasn't much of the threat at the time. So after queen b8, knight here attacks the f7 pawn. Rook e8 is terrible blunder. Here you just move the king here, you defend the pawn, and the rook can swing on the other side later on. Rook e8, knight check, back, so at least Waters won a pawn. King f8, probably a good move. King to safety, so now he's got black has got some sort of artificial castling happening. Check. It's never smart to force the opponent to make a good move, because king g8 is a good move. Before or after, that's the question. Really, the knight was on. See, the queen was defending the knight, and after giving this check that does nothing except forcing the king into a good square, white plays this and blunders the knight in the center. Just like that. So now the game is completely lost. You know, this is a position that is burnt beyond recognition. Not here, so of course there's pressure on the f pawn. And here d4, understandable, queen f6, and here f4, that's also understandable, except it creates a bad weakness here. d5. Now that is a bad move. The correct move was queen e7, and of course you can't move the pawn forward because the queen is under attack, and the pawn is under attack by two pieces. It would kind of force a move like a terrible move like rook here, but then you take anyway, because after rook takes, you pick up that one, and if the queen takes, whoops, you pick up that rook. Not a good thing anyway. d5 is a bad move. It allows b5, king in the corner, and here it's very difficult to play this position because you really like to play h3 here, force the knight back and have maybe g4 threatening g5, and of course the queen cannot go back because this queen would take, the rook would take, and that bishop would be lost at the end of the variation. But by playing aggressively like this, it's probably not a bad idea because it creates immediate threats, but it leaves something at home that's not attended as well. And you know, once you've got potentially a queen and a knight sniffing around the king area, it's never good news. Here, you could probably get away with giving the piece. I'm thinking this. If he takes the piece in the corner there, then you got this, and it's got absolutely deadly threats. You can look at any variation you like, but the king cannot stay in the diagonal, because what's going to happen is one of the threat. Let's say the queen. Let's make a move for argument's sake here. This move. Then you would have a force mate with knight here check, king in the corner. If you go here, you get mated on f2, king here, and then you've got this smothered mate that anybody should know. Knight here, king here, queen here, the rook takes, and that's checkmate. This is why I say don't leave a queen and a knight sniffing around the king, because stuff happens. So after queen d6, he played knight d7 instead of taking on e3, and now rook c7 attacks the knight. He takes. See, there's nobody home here around the white king. Is becoming a lonely place. After this, what happened is black took the rook, but as a matter of fact, he can play this, the queen on d4, with the same kind of threats as we saw before, and this is totally winning. In fact, there's no defense. The more you look at it, the more you'll see that This time the threat is not a smothered mate, it's just a straight mate with knight here and the king in the corner, and then you probably check on d1 and bishop f1 is forced and you pick it up with mate. So it's worse than when the rook was on c1. So after queen d4, the computer gives this move as the only move. And then you do this. No, actually, we just do that first. Where does the king go? It's dreadful. King g2, because if king h1, queen f2, threatening the bishop, bishop g2, queen e1 check, and that's checkmates. So king go up here, and you have something like this. The king has to go back. This position illustrates very well what I say about not leaving a knight and a queen around your king. It illustrates it perfectly, because now the only move is king g1, and there's a I don't know if it's the only one. Yeah, king g1 doesn't get mated, but now you just take on d7, and if queen takes, then you just go around, you swing around, and you're gonna enter the game this way, and with deadly, or here with deadly threats against the king, and the king cannot survive this position. In fact, it's a forced mate. So rook a8, probably, I don't know, this. Queen e3 check, king g2, and here comes the sun. Rook check. And it's very, very difficult. There's nothing you can do. There's a forced mate here. So anyway, after rook d7, bishop takes d7, and now queen takes d7. And here, rook here, queen takes b7. So now it's still a desperate position for white, but at least he's got a passed pawn now. Don't know if that's any good. There's no merit in it. There's a forced mate if the queen takes. Queen takes, and that's it. Good night, Charlie. There's nothing left. It gets back into a position we've seen before. We've seen the same position before. Anyway, so after taking on g2, the king recaptures. The queen takes on d4. This is not a good-looking move, but really in that position, you could argue that everything loses. Probably a good idea would be to play queen e7 here. But king h3 is not looking good. Yeah, h6 playable, queen f6 was playable as well. Here, queen c6 is not very accurate. What he should do is probably go to c7, and with this kind of variation, push on d4, the game is over, because as soon as you do this, the queen swings back to f8, and the threats are prevented on b8, and there's no really stopping this this pawn from going forward. So queen c6 not very accurate. Rook b8, queen e6 check, king in the corner. Well, it's not a good looking move, but what else was there? Maybe what is doing moving his king forward because he's seen a mating attack. So here, of course, everything wins. including queen f6 check. The only move that doesn't win is taking on b5, like this, because now you got a check that picks up the rook, and suddenly what was a dead set win for black is now a draw. But let's keep playing. There's more to this game than just this position. So so we were in this position after the rook was lost here. Now a check, just in case it's mate. King here. Probably checking on f5 was better. By being on the queen on this diagonal, you prevent any surprises with the other queen checking. So it's probably better, but it doesn't matter. King h8 probably the best move. King up with the idea of recycling the king to f3 and get closer to that pawn. Check, king here. So now we're going through a series of checks. This. It might be a good idea to actually check and threaten to draw with multiple checks. And if he pushes the pawn, then you can check on b7 and probably end up getting a draw very close to it. In fact, it's probably drawn. Let's have a look at the line. Queen e8, only move. Queen e4. Now he's going to go to g8 and get checked again, because if he does that, then we have queen b7 check, king h8, queen b8 check, king up, queen e8 check. Now very slowly we're going to pick up that pawn, or perhaps just perpetual check, who knows. Queen d8, king goes up, and if queen checks king here, threatening to interpose the queen. So let's see what happens. Yeah, king g8, and now we have to, how do we draw this? Queen e8 doesn't work, probably take the pawn, but there's another move here. And the king cannot come into the open. So you would draw this like that, or pick up the pawn, whichever. It's just a matter of style. So after h4, we have h4. It's not good because it's still drawn, but the queen e8 check was a draw for sure. d3. It's never a good idea to push a pawn forward without support, because eventually these two will gang up against that pawn. But objectively, it's still drawn. Queen d2, check, so he goes on dark squares. King up, check. Keep checking. You wonder about this. Why not king f2? I mean, king here allows this very, very annoying move. Queen here. And then if the king goes here, check. Where does he go? Probably here. Yeah, it's just annoying. I mean, white is close to losing this. So, but after king f1, which is a bad move, black played the check in the corner. King up. So here, of course, he's blundering a pawn because he has to go there to defend the queen, and then in the meantime this is not attended. So suddenly you just wonder what these moves mean. And then he takes the pawn. Now we go back a few moves. Say queen here. Just don't know where the position is. So he pushed here, king here, check here, and in this position you wonder why he didn't take the pawn now, because what's going to happen, he's going to take the pawn later, but being two pawns down. So the game went check, all these checks will be seen, and eventually he's going to have to take here after losing 2 pawns. It's just puzzling there. So now the game is actually lost. Check, good move, because the end game is winning. King up, king here, king here, king here. So that's totally winning for black, assuming you have the technique to win it. King here, completely dead. King here, and g5. The only move that draws. Anything else wins. I mean, he could play king here. He could check here, still wins. Well, I assume he still wins. Let's have a look at. But there's one move that kills it, and that's move here. Because now he's got no way of defending his pawn. There's no moves. If you push, we take with the king. If the king moves here, we pick up this pawn. This is completely gone, that game. And yet, this move, it's just a dead draw now, take. And of course, the h-file pawn with the king is always draw, unless this king can stop that king from getting back and shield the pawn towards promotion. But in this case, the king is already controlling the queening square, so it's a dead draw. Takes a while for the two players to, well, for black to realize that it's a draw. But really, this game is a big lesson in missed opportunities.